Hey everybody, welcome to this webcast. And
Yes.
obviously this is not Lex, we've got Brig here.
I'm Brig.
If you were on the pre-show, you saw us talking about some cool PowerShell goodness. We had a guest in from Michigan, one of our customers from Michigan. They're going over some cool stuff there. Might be in the extra content if I'm...
It's already there.
Awesome.
Yep.
It's in the extra content, check it out.
Yep.
But what we're going to talk about today, managing computers that are both in domains and either non-domain, like a standalone,
Yep.
or even across multiple domains. Right? And yes, there is a way you can do that. And we're going to head those questions off at the pass and start just addressing them. Before we begin, are there any questions that you want to throw down?
Dear Shane and Brig, how do I tell my off-domain PCs to automatically run the standard scan with local admin passwords while keeping my on-domain PC scanning with the default credentials? Sincerely, Kathleen F.
Hi, Kathleen. All right, so your off-domain PCs, obviously, if you set this up right, which we're going to show you how to do that, any machine that's in inventory, depending on the schedule that you have for your scan profiles, they'll be kicked off whether they are off domain, in another domain, different than the PDQ inventory console machine, or your own domain. They'll be treated kind of the same. It's just you have to handle it. You have to attack it from different credentials, and that's what we'll cover right now.
Yeah.
So actually, let's just do that. How about if we just jump into the...
Yeah.
We're going to set it up. We've got some machines that we want to add to inventory. That are not part of our Deadwood domain.
Yep.
Domain here is Deadwood. So to answer your question, Kathleen, first thing you're going to want to do, and if you're running inventory 13, you want to go to options. And this is going to be both inventory, obviously Kathleen's question was more inventory, but the credentials that we're talking about are largely inventory and deploy.
Yeah.
There's a crossover there. Anyway, options credentials in 13. Otherwise, it's preferences credentials pre-version 13.
Yep.
All right. So we'll go to credentials. Notice we've got 3 credentials that are set up here. We have a default, which is Quintana.
Yep.
What we want to do is add credentials for that. Basically, these 3 will not work on. Right. So a local.
Yep.
These 3 are all counts in Deadwood. So we're going to add credentials. Now, when you're talking about adding a machine that does not have a domain, just leave the domain field blank. And for those of you who are out there screaming, you can also use a period or a dot. That's correct. Blank or a dot.
I always use the dot. Old habits.
Old habits die young.
Yep.
All right. Die hard. I suck. Anyway.
Only the good.
Only the good die hard. All right. So let's see. What you have to specify an account that's local, a local account on your target machines.
Yep.
All right. So let's see. Brig has these set up. What's the name of the account that we're going to do?
That guy right there.
Local admin. So a lot of you would have your administrator or whatever you have, and a lot of you will also create your own. We've created a local admin. So this is once again a local account, and it has to have administrative rights on the target computer.
Yep.
And then the password. Now, these are for the lab. You'll see a description field. Kind of recommend you do this, especially if, and Kathleen, if you have a bunch of different machines that maybe they all have local admin as the name, but they have different passwords for different groups, different departments or whatever, you're going to want to use the description to set these apart. So we'll call these like lab 1, local admin or something like that. And then you can test the credentials. Is that one lab 1.lab?
Nope. We want to actually test on that one because we're going across a domain.
Which one is it? This one? Test.
Oh, wait, hold on just a second.
We're doing
we actually want to do that one.
Yeah, lab 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was right.
You were right.
All this is going to do is just check to see if we can reach that. And is it the same password?
Yeah, it's the same one. This one, yeah.
I'm sorry. Where is that?
Right.
I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, but it's an uppercase R.
Nope.
No. Okay, so we're going to do this again. I typed in the wrong password.
I do this constantly. In fact, in prepping for this, I have done this probably 150 different times. All bad.
All right, so let's go back there.
Swears.
But this is a good way of doing this because obviously testing the credentials, you don't have to wait for a scan or a deployment or something like that to realize you typed it in wrong. Local admin lab 1 or something like lab 1 machines. Test credentials. All right, and you'll see there the test. So yeah, we don't have the fuzzy logic down yet to include the password you intended. You can only use the password you typed.
Yes.
So we know that that's okay. We at least know that local admin responds to that. Now I'm not going to make that a default. You've got your domain machines for the most part. These are the outliers. Don't make that the default, but you have that out there. So now we want to add computers, those non-domain computers, to inventory. So we'll just go to computer, add computers, and we'll just do it by name. Obviously, we're not going to do it by Active Directory. They don't reside in it. And we'll do a lab 1, and we'll hit add, and lab 2, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And even though they say they give the FQDN on these, they're not actually part of that domain. That's just that they're in DNS. I did a little bit of DNS stuff on the background, so that's why they're in there.
In case you missed it, Brig takes his DNS fairly seriously. Now, before you hit OK, notice this scan user set right here to the default. That's not going to work. If we say OK, it's going to try to scan those computers, add them, and scan them with Deadwood domain credentials.
Yep. Don't
want that. We're going to go down to local admin that you created and say OK. Now, when you add a computer to inventory, by default, it creates or it attaches it to a scan user, and it uses by default whatever user account was used to bring that into inventory. In this case, we said local admin. So local admin is going to be the scan user. And we'll just type in, let's do lab 1. Yep, we can see lab 1. Username and password is incorrect. Maybe we ran into a little problem. Let's go to select scan user. I know what the problem is in that. I didn't change it beforehand.
Change it beforehand.
Yeah. Sorry. On the import, we'll cover that in a second. In the import, make sure you change this beforehand. But just so you know, I'm going to come over here. Oh, well, this failed.
Yep.
Right-click on this, select scan user, and just change that down to local admin. And then I'm going to hit F6 to initiate that scan again. While we do that, I'm going to go to lab 2 and show you a different way. You can also go inside the computer and change the scan user. So you don't just have to do it from the right-click in the collection window. And we'll change that down. Now, it is very important, probably a good time to call this out. If you're talking about managing computers that are not a member of a domain, and anything past Vista or beyond, so this doesn't apply to XP. If you still have XP, please don't have XP. By default, Windows comes out with what's known as remote UAC. We're all familiar with UAC, user access control. There's remote UAC, and it's enabled by default. And what that means is, with remote UAC enabled, you cannot connect to a computer using a local account and over the network and access like a remote share or an admin share, like admin $, which is what we need to access, or $. That's locked down to be accessed from a local account over the network. We had to change that. Is that in the bonus content?
It's in the bonus content.
All right. It's in the registry. You will have to change that on the machine. Hopefully, if you're imaging machines that aren't going to be on the domain, just set that. It's one value. It's a D-word value that you set to false, to 0.
Yep.
Anyway, now we'll come over here to lab 2. Sure enough, it's I mean hit F6. I haven't scanned that again since then. Yep. We'll go to lab 1. There we go.
There we go.
And you can see that we've got the inventory for lab 1. I am a local description. Perfect. Now, so Kathleen, when you set up your scan profiles, your schedules, go to Preferences, and in your scan profiles, and they've moved here. I keep on forgetting that.
I know. The menu changes still get me too. And I've been in all day long, so yes.
Monica's watched so many times, he's probably like, I bet you. What's the over-under on Shane or Brig just going to the old preferences?
Just go to the old preferences. Always do it.
That's the new drinking
We know this product well.
Yes. Luckily, we have handy links.
Remember, yes.
We did that mostly for ourselves.
Yeah, that's for the internal, no doubt. If you see the trigger, anything that's in the triggers column, like the standard, we have a scan profile called standard. The green check mark means that's the default, meaning when you select a collection or computer or whatever and hit F6, that is the scan profile that's executed. That's the only one out of the box that has a schedule. You could always change, let's say I have the application scan profile. I love this one. It's fast, it only scans applications, the basic computer pro, and hotfixes. You can always add additional scanners there, but I like it. It's crisp, clean, no caffeine. You can set your schedules to say, you know what, I want this to be run Monday through Friday, so we'll be weekly, all weekdays, and let's have it kicked off. Let's have it kick off at 4 a.m. When you say okay to this, Kathleen, even those computers that are not a part of the domain will be scanned, and they'll be scanned using that local admin. Now, if you remember, I did screw up because it added Quintana. I want to call that out real quick. When you are adding computers, add them by name. Change your scan user before you import them into this bottom area. All right. Otherwise, you can change this all you want. It already attaches it. That was the problem. And it remembers the last scan user that you used. So if you're going to add computers from a domain, do it this way.
Kind of like the deploy once. Credentials.
Yeah, it kind of remembers. Do we have, before we jump into like multi-domain, do we have any questions?
Dear Shane and Brig, is it possible to add or keep non-domain machines to inventory and and keep AD sync set to full sync for domain machines? Sincerely, Dr. Johnny D.
Dr. John.
Dr. John.
Okay, I'm glad the word keep is in there. No. Nope. If you have, and that's a great question. So let's go over here to our preferences. And we're talking about, and by we, I mean John. What John's talking about is in preferences of inventory, Active Directory. If you're using Active Directory, we highly encourage you to use Active Directory synchronization.
Yes.
That means that this will, on a schedule, this can watch Active Directory, certain containers. A container can be OU, usually is an OU, and sub-OUs, or a security group. And it looks to see if there's new computers that are added, and then it will automatically import those into inventory. You have 3 delete modes. There's import only, which obviously means there's not going to be any deletions if a computer leaves that container or gets deleted from AD. The mixed sync is what you're going to want, really. Full sync means just that. Any computer object that is in inventory has to be here. So notice we had those lab machines that we added. There's lab 1 right there. I've got full sync. I'm going to just go ahead and sync now. And by doing that, we're going to lose lab 1. There it went.
It goes away.
It went away. So what you're going to need to do is use mixed mode, and that means import or delete if a computer is in those containers and then leaves those containers. But if it's outside of those containers, mixed mode means I'm not going to touch it. So this is a great opportunity to show them the proper way. As I add computer by name, we do the, notice I've got the local admin set up already, right?
Remembers?
So it's lab 1, right? Is that right?
Yeah. Well, he's doing that. Just one more thing too. Like if you've got a really messy inventory where you've got like local machines and you've also got domain machines, doing a full sync and then going ahead and then manually adding those machines in or doing a network discovery afterwards will clean up your inventory very quickly. So like, because especially if you're taking over for another admin or anything like that, you can just put it on full. It'll delete all of the non-AD machines, and then you can go back and manually add those in just to kind of clean it up.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I've done that several times.
So I'm going to change this because we are going to be doing, we want to be able to manage machines that are not in these containers. I am going to change that to mixed sync. And then once I do mixed, I can still say sync now. We'll close this up. And if I do look for lab 1, lab 1 did not get deleted. All right. So, yeah, sorry, John, you are going to need to have mixed sync. There. All right.
But you can clean it up if you want. And then add them in.
All right. Do you want to do another question? Do you want us to jump into multi-domain? Multi-domain.
Multi-domain.
All right, so if we're going to do multi-domain, I would still suggest that you do Active Directory synchronization. All right. Now, in order to do that, we're going to go back to options and preferences, or sorry, options and credentials. And we're going to add credentials for different domain. Now this will work if you have transitive trust domains, if you have all your domains are just subdomains in a forest. Yes, you can use like
Enterprise admin.
an enterprise admin or something that has authority, admin rights over all the machines across the domains.
Yep.
It's generally not a best practice. Usually you would add different credentials for different domains or just use local. But anyway,
Local.
we're gonna go ahead and do an add credentials.
I'm just going to say local.
And pardon me, which this is going to be, we doing dev?
Yeah, we're going to do that one.
All right, so we're going to do dev. And so this is another domain, and this actually doesn't have a trust relationship at all, right?
No, these are completely discrete, separate. They are not in
Okay.
any way. Yep.
And the domain username is domain admin. We'll just do that.
And it's capital.
Thank you.
Do a little description.
Mhm.
Yep.
Perfect. We'll say OK. And then notice we've got, yeah, you can see that. Now we have Deadwood as well as the dev domain.
Yep.
So we set that up beforehand, and then we're going to go over to options again, go back to preferences, and we're going to go into Active Directory. We've got our mixed sync. We're going to keep that because we have non-domain.
Yep.
We're going to do an include container. Now, by default, it's going to say, hey, this is your, because this is the last domain I connected to was
Yep.
Deadwood. No, we're going to hit change domain, and now we have to add a new domain, and we will call it dev. I'll use, because I have Brig here, I'll use the fully qualified domain name because I don't want him to kill me.
Not NetBIOS name's fine. Sure.
Don't use the current user in this case.
Nope.
Why the current user is set to Quintana as the default. No, we're going to choose what we had already added. Now, if you hadn't added these credentials beforehand, you would be able to edit credentials and then add them on the fly
Yep.
through this method. So we're going to change it to dev. There's our credentials. We'll say OK. Then you select that new domain, and it says, OK, which one do you want to add? And we'll just go ahead and choose
Choose the root.
The root.
Yep.
And now we have two containers from different domains.
Yep.
We'll hit sync now. Yes, we want to.
Save.
And I think there's one called test McTest or something.
Yep. Test McTest.
There it is.
Look at that.
So there's test McTest-dev that belongs to this other domain.
Yep.
All right.
And notice that it's already using the scan credentials for that particular domain. It's a beauty.
How do you tell that? Once again, let's right click. We'll go down to select scan user, and it says, hey, yeah, when you scan this computer, we're going to be using this. Now, where this, not only is this important this way, because now I know whenever I could scan all the computers,
Yep.
and it's just going to say, I'm going to use whatever scan user is set individually. But Chris,
Yes.
I'm going to wake Chris up. He's our phone a friend. Can you think of where the scan user might be important outside of inventory?
We have this awesome product called PDQ Deploy. You might want to check it out because it can actually, when you're deploying a package to targets, it can pull the credentials from the scan user on inventory to your deployment for the win.
Yes.
I'm interested.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dodge. All right, so I'm going to run. We've got just a test bed. Let's run this out. Watch this totally crap the bed.
That's all right.
So I'm going to go ahead and hit. I want to deploy package. Right. I'm going to say Control D to deploy, and I'm going to choose some targets. I'm going to choose them from PDQ inventory, and we'll do poor Chase. Parents named him C, and that's at the top of the list, and that's why he's there. Oh, pardon me. Let's go to all computers.
Dave is in the clear.
David, right? We'll scroll down to
T.
yeah. There we go. No,
A little too far.
There it is. Test McTest. So now we've got a computer from Deadwood, a computer from Dev, right?
Yep.
We'll say OK. Now, notice right up here, the credentials that we're going to use. This is going to use the dude from Deadwood. But no, we're not. We're going to check this right here. Use PDQ inventory scan user credentials when they're available. So you have to have inventory. I think it's pro. It might be enterprise level.
Yeah.
But at least definitely not free. If these computers exist in inventory, it will use the scan user. And notice, we'll just hit deploy. So we're saying use the scan user from inventory. It should effectively run this.
And if you,
there you go. Well, there's the deploy user right there.
so it shows you the deploy user. That's fantastic.
And what I want to call out here is in deploy, if you go down to credentials, notice we don't have the dev credentials here for the domain. Why? We do communicate with inventory, and we're saying, hey, inventory, you already have these credentials. They're encrypted. We trust you, so we're going to go ahead and use those. You don't have to add them. Yeah. If you're not using inventory and you still want to deploy to computers across domains, it's the same thing as you did in inventory. You're going to add those credentials, specify your domain, or keep it blank for non-domain and put your credentials there. And then when you deploy using those credentials.
Emily just clarified it's a feature in Enterprise.
Enterprise. Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Emily. Boy, she's going to beat the crap out of me. But then again, it's Thursday, so it's her turn. Whatever.
She's in the rotation.
And on deck. Do we have any questions out there?
Dear Shane and Brig, when you add a machine not on the domain and later join that machine to the domain, does the machine update or will it duplicate? Sincerely, David Allen F.
You know, David Allen Coe is still one of my favorite. I mean, he's an old curmudgeon. Sean's like, I love David Allen Coe, but he's just so mean and rude. Not you, David Allen.
Yeah.
Talking about the old curmudgeon country singer
I mean, that
who's
we know
about
of.
to die. Anyway, David Allen. Okay, so you know what? I don't think I've ever tested that.
This is actually a really good question.
I would wager that it would just update that, especially if you're using AD Sync. We should test that. We should test our stuff.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
David Allen, if you've seen a problem, we would encourage you to if you're basically asking because you're saying I'm not seeing this is happening and maybe I'm doing it wrong. Let us know what you're doing. Actually, you just did open a ticket, and we'll take care of that. I know when you have Active Directory sync. This is a good point. You know what? No, the rule is if we can't drink, or if we have to drink if we can't answer a question.
Yeah.
Remember? You don't have any whiskey?
I don't know.
I've got Monster.
I can drink for all you guys.
Thanks,
Okay.
man.
So sorry, David Allen. Let's test that out, you guys. Let's make that. Chris, you there? Wake up.
No.
All right, but what I wanted to, one of the reasons we really encourage you to use AD Sync is if you've got a computer that you're syncing from Active Directory and the computer name changes, inventory will automatically detect that change.
Yep.
At the next AD Sync or scan, and it will update that record. If you have imported a computer, like if we go back over here to Lab 1, remember Lab 1 is not brought in from AD Sync. We imported this manually. If this computer name changes, it's not. So you call it Lab 3. It's not going to change here. You do have the option of changing it. When you open up the computer, do we still have that?
No, we took that away.
No, right there. Update name and computer. We took the button away.
Yeah.
You can update the name in inventory. This does not change the name of the computer itself. This is just an after the fact. Hey, I've changed this computer, so now I need to update it here. And you'd call it Lab 3. But that's not necessary when you're talking about AD Sync. We'll jump on that because we see that object has changed. Has the same GUID, we're all good.
Yeah.
All right.
And the reason why we moved that button away is because that's a rarely used tool and it's very specific.
And it was kind of confusing. People would see that, if I change this name, it will also change the name of the computer. So no, you just update the name in inventory and you do that from the computer menu.
Yep.
Do we have any more questions?
Dear Shane and Brig, is there an easy way to rename domain computers with a naming system and using PDQ without having to do them individually? Thanks in advance, Dustin M.
There are some. I'm going to turn over to Chris. Because you can. Yes, there are some ways you can do that. Scripting it obviously with PowerShell.
Yep.
So Chris, do you want to come over here, or do you want to just talk?
I can just talk because I mean this could be a long discussion in of itself.
You can put your clothes on and come over here if you want.
too time consuming and much.
We've only got 4 minutes.
Anyway,
Okay.
Yeah, it takes him at least 6 just to find the shirt. Okay, go ahead.
there is a commandlet called add computer that you can use. It can add machines to the domain, or it can rename machines already on the domain. So use that one. You can actually write it out, and whatever your naming scheme is, and you define that in your script itself, you can then run this against all your machines using invoke command, use a list, pull use a CSV file or something. You can go through them really easily.
Bear Go Lightly wrote down PowerShell rename computer.
Rename computer works, but add computer can actually change it in Active Directory. So,
All right.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead and keep your clothes off.
Okay.
No.
You've earned that right.
Now you know why we have a line of people that want to be the phone a friend, because clothing's optional.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can throw another one down.
Yeah, throw it down.
Let's get some questions.
Dear Shane and Brig, we have a site with a dozen non-domain PCs that can't be pinged using host names. Inventory can't scan them either. Any suggestions? Domain PCs are fine at that site, and non-domain PCs are fine at my site. Sincerely, Scott.
I'm going to look at this at 2. Number 1, look at Briggs' shirt. So if you cannot resolve them using host names, then they need to be added to DNS. Now it sounds like they probably have their domain, maybe they have DHCP that automatically adds. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're using a Windows DNS, and you probably have DHCP set to update that record in DNS. You're probably going to need to create some manual A records.
Yep.
I'm going to shut up and let Brig take the DNS portion.
What I would recommend doing, especially in lab portions or lab off-domain machines, is to actually creating a new forward lookup zone within that that's not Active Directory integrated. So if you go right-click your forward zone and then go down to select a new one, you'll go through some options. One of the first ones is uncheck that to store that in Active Directory. You don't want that in Active Directory integrated zone. And then once that's created, whatever you call it, then you can just add your machines. Like for instance, I did the lab, so that was always lab1.lab. So you just do that, and then you should be able to see all of those because it'll still be in DNS. You can access it. It's perfect.
If you don't have access to DNS, and these are machines that you have to add, you've only got 5 of them, then we'll have to use the H word, hosts file. If you don't have ability, like maybe there's the DNS god at your environment, and they're like, oh, we're not adding those. I'm not going to. Probably because he doesn't know how to add an A record. You can use a host file on your console machine, and then it will resolve that. You just have to keep that host file up to date. Also, so let's say you get that DNS issue taken care of. Now you can resolve.
Yep.
If you still can't scan it or deploy to it, remember that it's in the bonus content. That registry key we told you about. If you can zoom out, I'm going to bring this up a little bit, JJ, so it's over our heads. But that path right there, you're going to have to go out to the computer. It's a HQ local machine, Microsoft. Move it over, okay. There we go, sorry. Look at the bonus content. You're going to need to go and create, it's going to be a D word, so you'll have to go to this registry key, right-click, new D word, and then local account token filter policy. Set that. There we go. You set it to true, right? Or you set it to false.
You set it to 1.
Set it to 1. Okay.
Yep. So that's perfect.
So set it to true.
Yep.
And then Microsoft says you have to reboot the computer. Actually, you just have to stop and restart the server and browser service.
Yeah.
But I just reboot it. That will allow you to manage those computers from a local account. Okay. And then we do have
super important.
Yeah.
Super
If
important.
you are doing this on a non-domain machine, just run gpedit.msc on that computer. We have knowledge base article that covers this.
It's also in the bonus content.
Yeah, this is the same as your group policy, but notice this is just the local policy for that computer. You're going to want to go into administrative templates, network connections, your firewall, go to your standard, and you see the allow ICMP exceptions. Just double click that. Enable, all you really have to have enable is allow an inbound echo request.
Yep.
That's basically saying respond to a ping.
Yep.
That way the heartbeat will find it. And then you're also going to want to enable the allow inbound file and printer sharing. So you want to enable that, and you should be good to go.
Yep.
This is not necessary if you're talking about a domain machine, because this stuff is handled from group policy. So that's how you do that. DNS is the big one. Get those resolutions, or host file if you have to, and then make sure you have the remote UAC taken care of. So if you have any other questions, by all means, throw down.
Let us know.
Yeah, this guy or Jason or Katie, Chris will answer the questions for you. So rock on, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Tuesday for Chris's 10 Commandlets PowerShell blog or webcast.
Thanks, everyone.
I'm drunk. See you guys.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, David Allen and Dustin M., winners of PDQ swag. Also, Alan Page, winner of our PDQ floppy coaster. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week.